Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast. We are sponsored by Chalkboard, where you simply choose more or less in your favorite player stats and win to 5,000 times your money. I am Jim Coventry, and Week 9, crazy day in the books, but aren't they all crazy days? We know how that goes. Before we get to our 5 instant reactions, a few that I'm not going to cover here, but we definitely will take a moment to talk about that. Unbelievably, the Packers lose at home to the Panthers. Bryce Young just squeaks over 100 yards passing in the last minute of the game, and they win. Rico Dowdle, what a day. Very smart by Dave Canales to lean on him as the lead back. Definitely pays off. Dowdle carries the mail. Jordan Love again. Kind of boom or bust. We see these games. He has these games out of nowhere where he just doesn't show up, and great downfield pass to Watson, throws another one later, gets picked off. Anyway, Packers, the big loss at home, 5-2-1 for them. Again, we'll get to our 5 main reactions soon. Other ones, Chargers take care of business. Patriots pull out a close one over the Falcons. Drake London, 3 touchdowns. Great game by him. Patriots do enough to win, but Travion Henderson still can't get the dominating work. Terrell Jennings was a big part of that game plan and scored the touchdown, of course. Just can't get Travion Henderson his work. McCaffrey continues to go wild. CJ Stroud in the Texans game is lost to a concussion. Broncos eke one out despite Nick's not completing half his passes, I believe. And all that said, we will go now to instant reaction number 1. And it will be, of course, the Bills top the Chiefs. Every regular season. I'm not sure if it's exactly everyone, but it certainly seems like every regular season, the Bills play the Chiefs. The Bills win the game. Some postseasons they meet, and then the Chiefs beat the Bills. Well, here we have it again. Bills 28, Chiefs 21. The Chiefs were never in rhythm offensively, but let's start with the winners here. Josh Allen does what he has to do to win. And he knows how this works. He's played these big games many, many times in the regular season against the Chiefs, and he knows it's best at the right times to put the ball in his own hands. Didn't run for a lot of yards, only 6 carries for 19 yards, but 2 of them resulted in touchdowns. So he made sure he crossed that goal line, make sure he guaranteed those touchdowns. Passing wise, look super, super efficient. 23 of 26. 23 of 26. Josh Allen just totally connecting on all of his receivers. I think it was like 10 or 11 different pass catchers caught the ball. 273 yards, just 1 touchdown, but he ran for the 2, so they were fine there. Ty Johnson vultured a touchdown from either or. James Cook or Allen. James Cook managers had to be furious because Cook, 27 carries, $114. So fine enough, but then he only caught 1 pass for 11 yards. So if you have him in a PPR league, you ended up with about 14 points roughly. And it's like, okay, that's good, and I'm happy with it, but Ty Johnson stole that touchdown. So that neither here nor there, not much we could do about that. The receivers, 2 of them were relevant. Dalton Kincaid, we continue to see about 6 targets in many games, and he got the 6 here. So he catches all of them, 101 yards and a touchdown. He has a very nice tight end ceiling, not the elite ceiling at the Bowers and the McBrides. Targets just aren't there. But when he isn't super efficient on those targets, then we see those 3 for 30 games. But Kincaid clearly is somebody, you love him in your starting fantasy lineup every week. Again, you'd like a little more upside, but they just don't always have to throw the ball so much. And like we said today, they spread it around quite a bit. Khalil Shakir, only 43 yards, but he caught 7 of 8 targets. And we've been saying he's been coming on as a reliable PPR option. But in terms of Buffalo played this well offensively. They did what they had to do, got the first downs at the right times, didn't completely put them away. And of course, missed the field goal late in the game. There were like 22 seconds left. The Bills are trying to go up by 10. Doink, hits the right upright, and then the Chiefs get the ball at 22 seconds, unable to do anything with it. But hey, the Bills fans had to have a royal pain in the side of their head when they saw that ball hit the upright. But again, Buffalo, nice job of them. Now, realistically for fantasy, Keon Coleman, if you haven't cut him already, you need to. That week 1 game is now about 8 weeks ago, right? That was a big shootout with Baltimore. He had that great game. Really hasn't done much of anything since. Not his fault. I think he's okay, but they don't need him. And this is an offense, and I talked about this last year, and it holds. This is a team that likes to operate in the middle of the field. That's why you get Shakir. It's why you get Dalton Kincaid. I mean, sometimes they'll move them toward the sideline, but they like to live in the middle, and that's where they're their best. And so, yes, so it'll continue to be that way. There are times they'll need their outside receivers, and when they need them, they'll go there, but that's not a priority within their offense. Chiefs side, I won't say his worst game, because we've seen Super Bowls where he's played worse. Tampa Bay, Philadelphia. Okay, so that said, Patrick Mahomes, 15 of 34, less than half of his passes were completed. 250 yards, no touchdowns, one pick. What do you say? Patrick Mahomes. I mean, here's Allen, 23 of 26. Mahomes, 15 of 34. Well, which quarterback won the battle? Which team won the game? Hand in hand. No magic tricks. Wasn't able to do it. So Mahomes, not a good game. Rashee Rice, he went a long period of time without seeing the ball. He ends up with 7 targets, tied with Xavier Worthy. Worthy, 3 for 23. I told you I'm worried about that guy. He'll have his splash plays on occasion, but it's a little bit frustrating. Definitely a little bit frustrating here. So, yeah, all that said, don't know what to do with that. But Rashee Rice, 4 for 80, and then he had a rushing touchdown. So, 2 rushes, 6 yards, and a touchdown. So, again, he gets you about 18 PPR points, which I think is his worst of the 3 games, but he certainly will take that. He's a wide receiver 1, the top 7 wide receiver. I have him ranked every week right around there, but he belongs there. And even when the Chiefs didn't do much offensively, Rice got it done. Hollywood Brown caught a 40 and a 33-yard pass. So hats off to him. There's a broken play where it got extended. Long catch on that, but don't count on that too much. 4 targets for him. Kelsey, 4 for 66. He's been a double-digit PPR producer most weeks, about the last month. So, yeah, he's become more reliable than he was, and that role secure because they have so many other receivers, and Kelsey's gotten a better understanding of his current role, finds the soft spots a little bit better. So that's worked out. Kareem Hunt, if he needed him, 11 for 49 and a touchdown. Yards per carry against Buffalo, you expected. Buffalo's not a good run defense. He ran in a short touchdown. It's kind of what you expected from Kareem Hunt. I don't think you thought he'd go off. Now, those who started Brashard Smith, 3 for 7, no catches on a target. Told people to be careful with him. I just didn't know if Andy Reid was ready to put him loose on this particular stage, and it ends up that Clyde Edwards-Helaire gets 2 carries to 3 for Smith. So there's that. So, yeah, all that said, though, so the Chiefs are 5-4, big loss, and the Bills are 6-2. So, and then, we'll talk about the Colts later. But, yeah, as home field advantage goes, this one really, really dings the Chiefs because the Bills now at I'll call it a half game because it's a tiebreaker, and then we'll see what the Colts are able to do later. But as of right now, that is a knock on the Chiefs. So that puts them in a spot where they may have to win some games on the road. All right. And definitely not going to be getting a bye week unless things really change. All right, everybody, elevate your game with the ultimate sports contest, Mega Sports Progressive. You dive into a world of excitement with 3 progressive jackpots and a chance to win big every week and every month. We're rewarding 1,500 lucky winners, distributing over $50,000 in monthly prizes. All you do is answer 15 daily sports props, add up your correct responses for the week's cash prizes, tally the week's totals for huge monthly cash rewards. Mega Sports Pro makes it fun and easy to join. It's a thrilling opportunity to be part of our growing community of sports enthusiasts. You sign up today and unlock a chance to win big every day, every week, and every month. Sign-up's free, no commitments, no credit cards. Your first 9 days of play are free. Visit megasportspro.com today. Instant reaction number 2. Daniel Jones turns into a pumpkin. What else do I say? Not trying to be mean. Really not. But this is what we worried about. It was Sam Darnold last year. I loved Sam Darnold preseason last year. He went to Minnesota. I said the blocking's good. The scheme, the passes are going to be good. He's going to be in a situation to succeed. But then they got to those important games, week 17, wild card round. And defense just said, you know what? Send the house at this guy. It was back to that's Sam Darnold. Send the house at this guy. If he beats us, God bless him. But we don't think he will. And he didn't. Well, Daniel Jones, the Steelers sent the house. And Daniel Jones, 5 turnovers, 3 picks, 3 fumbles, lost 2. 5 turnovers for Daniel Jones. I think the Colts had turned the ball over 3 times all year. To my recollection, I think it was 3 all year. Playing in Pittsburgh, The recipe's out on Daniel Jones. Will it work every week? Maybe. Can every team pressure like Pittsburgh? Probably not. But Pittsburgh had not been a good defense. And I really thought Shane Steichen would have a nice, easy plan. Pittsburgh corners haven't been great. They played well today. They got yardage late when the game was out of hand. But when the game was in question, they were making plays. And I just Jonathan Taylor, they shut it down. So what they did was they loaded up to stop Taylor, and in the meantime, they sent people in to get Jones. And Jones was going to have to win with his arm. Now, the numbers for Jones, aside from the turnovers, end up being okay for fantasy. 31 of 50, 342, rushed in a touchdown, passed a touchdown. So, there's that. So you take away the interceptions. I don't know how much your league dings you for those. If they ding you 2, you lost 10 points on turnovers and, 27 points. So if you lost ding 2, he's down to 17. If you only get dinged 1 for a turnover, he got you 22. So, but my goodness, could not have. He looked terrible. He looked terrible whenever the game was in question. Jonathan Taylor, they were trailing 14 carries is all he got. And they were down. I mean, they were chasing points. So 14 to 45, a 9-yard run was his longest. Pittsburgh just made it difficult. They got physical with him. And as a receiver, Taylor, 2 for 12. So he didn't do much, but you got to live with that, right? Jonathan Taylor's been carrying your team. This week he didn't. Next week will be a better week. Surprisingly, all the wide receivers got it done for you. If you started Michael Pittman, oh man, that late garbage paid up. 9 for $1.15. Alec Pierce had 13 targets at 12 for Pittman, 6 for $1.15 for Pierce. And Pierce was doing well early and late, despite only getting 6 catches. Josh Downs punches in a touchdown, 9 targets, 6 for 57, a touchdown. So of those they all get you at least 16 PPR points. Pittman got you 20. So all 3 of them did it. Tyler Warren was the odd man out. 7 targets, 5 for 26. Not a terrible game. Not what he's been getting you. But again, from a tight end, you'll take it. But all that said, and I should have talked about the Steelers first, but the story was Daniel Jones turning into a pumpkin. That's the story. So now we will see. I believe in the next game, it's 2 weeks. The Chiefs are on bye. I think they play the Colts right after that. Well, 2 weeks to prepare. I wonder what kind of blitz scheme Steve Spagnuolo is going to set up for that, because it's going to be interesting to watch. And I think it could be, we'll see. We'll see how Daniel Jones responds to that, because that one is going to be interesting, because now that film is out. Is it going to be like the shark sensing blood in the water with Spagnuolo? It might be. So we'll see. Colts 7-2, record still great. But man, it was a very winnable game. And it was a game they just really didn't show up. Steelers side. Well, they outscored the Colts 27-20. But if you look at the fantasy numbers, you're not like, okay, well, where were the fantasy points? Jalen Warren scores 2 touchdowns, but rushes 16 for 31. So, and he only caught 2 for -2. So 2 touchdowns, and he didn't get you a lot more. He only got you about 16, 17 points, which is fine. But with 2 touchdowns, you're expecting more. And then other than that, no other rusher had more than 4 yards. Aaron Rodgers throws for 203 and a touchdown, and DK Metcalf's fallen off the face of the earth. They ignored him in the last game, throwing to the tight ends, right, left, up, and down. It was like 17 targets at tight ends, and I think last week, DK got 4. Kind of the same here. You got 6 targets for Darnell Washington, 4 for Freiermuth, 5 for Jonnu Smith, 15 targets at tight end. DK gets 4 targets. Now, I get it. Steelers are winning football games. They're 5-3. I get it. But realistically, is this team doing the same thing? Are they playing for 9 wins? And then they're playing for a first-round playoff exit? Because, honestly, DK Metcalf had a matchup advantage against those corners, and they didn't even waste their time. There was one pass in the end zone, a little underthrown. DK reached over, almost had a touchdown. DK got you 2 catches, 6 yards. Calvin Austin, 5 for 56, came out of nowhere. Can't count on him week to week, so that's a bit problematic. But realistically, Pittsburgh, you look at the fantasy line. Freiermuth, good luck if you started him. I can't see too many leagues where you're starting Pat Freiermuth. But he went 2-3 for 27 and a touchdown. So funny enough, it was a game where Warren had a little bit of fantasy performance. Nobody else did much. The Steelers won. So it was, you know what? But that's right. Think back. But that's Steelers football. All those years, all those crazy games, Steelers football. How did they win? They just did. They just figured out a way and won it. So great game for them. Big win. But again, they moved to 5-3. And I think many thought the Colts would win this game. The line was close. The line was 3.5. But The Ravens were really hoping that would happen because they would have been within a game. Now they'll have to scratch a claw a little bit more, but they probably will be just fine over time. All right, it's football season. The best place to catch the games is at Circa Resort and Casino in downtown Las Vegas, featuring the best pool in history, the Stadium Swim. Stadium Swim has 3 levels, 6 pools, and a 143-foot diagonal screen. Whether it's Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, Stadium Swim is America's favorite place to watch football. No matter the size of your group, Stadium Swim is a place for you. From owner suites to cabanas, day beds to stadium booths, there are seating choices for everyone. And the best part, Stadium Swim's open 365 days a year. With temperature-controlled pools, it's a great place to catch the games all season long. Stadium Swim, located at Circa Resort and Casino in downtown Las Vegas. Book today at circalasvegas.com. Instant reaction number 3. The Vikings upset the Lions. Unreal. Not, it's a divisional game, so it's not really unreal. But I know there are a lot of people had the Lions 9.5-point favorites. They were 8.5, and they went up to 9.5. That was a big number for a divisional game. And I know I was talking to my RotoWire teammate Alan Soslowski, and Alan had talked about taking the Lions in Survivor, and I go, that's interesting. I go, the divisional game, but I get it. They were big favorites, and JJ McCarthy early got a couple of touchdown passes. And then the Vikings defense showed up. The Vikings defense really played well. And it was interesting because the Lions have played this defense many times. Brian Flores' defense, nothing new to them. They've done well. But maybe is it a game where they miss Ben Johnson? And maybe that's the case. I still think John Morton has done some okay things, but I think that when there have been challenges, they miss the ability of Ben Johnson to adjust. I think they also missed the creative game planning of Ben Johnson, cooking up something new that the defense isn't necessarily going to look for. Those are really important parts of the Lions game that are gone. Now, the Lions are usually good enough to beat most teams, so it doesn't often come into play. And the Vikings, like, I didn't give you the score. The Vikings 27, Lions 24. Vikings 4-4. The Lions are 5-3, so a game apart between these two teams. But let's start with the Minnesota side. We'll get back to Detroit in a bit. But Minnesota, like I said, McCarthy threw 2 early touchdowns. And then otherwise, the game script worked where he didn't have to throw a lot. Threw 25 passes, and then the team ran the ball 29 times. So that worked out well. Aaron Jones looked really good, but he injured his shoulder, and I didn't see him return to the game. I will check the All-22 tomorrow to see if that obviously reports will service. I didn't see him back on the field, and he went 9 carries for 78 yards and 2 catches for 20 yards. So Aaron Jones really helped them at earlier points of the game get out to the lead. Jordan Mason is just not working out. Both starting tackles played, but they're both limited, the knee injuries. The center has been on injured reserve, and Jordan Mason's an interior runner with a tough matchup, 10 for 36, and he caught 1 pass for 1 yard. So Jordan Mason, now it's 4 games with Aaron Jones, and he's averaging about 5 PPR points. If Aaron Jones is on the field, 4 games of evidence say you really can't play Jordan Mason. You could pray he falls in the end zone, but not much is getting done. And Jones looked a lot better getting to the perimeter, which they need. They need somebody to get to the perimeter because the offensive line's banged up. Justin Jefferson scored a touchdown, so he got you in 6 for 47 and a touchdown, but 9 targets. You still leave worried. That ship's already passed, right? Justin Jefferson, you start him every week. You know that you got a floor, but you're probably not getting those 30-point games. That's kind of a long foregone conclusion, and you're hoping for 20. You're really hoping for 20. 20 right now is a big game for Justin Jefferson. That's probably about it. It was 16-7 here. 23 maybe is a big game for him, but not him, of course. But J.J. McCarthy, you could see that when Detroit, they fell behind, again, those 2 touchdowns kind of blindsided them, and then they just heated up McCarthy. They just sent people, and you could just see McCarthy just really had issues with it. Now, there was a point where they left the side of the field open. McCarthy ran in for a touchdown. So for fantasy, if you started McCarthy in a Superflex league, you did really well. You were very happy with the rushing touchdown. But and not every defense is Detroit, so there's that. But there are clear worries and limitations. This is 3rd game. It's his 3rd career game. So you certainly give him a pass on that. But it didn't look really good. So I will definitely say that for sure. Other than that, Jordan Addison caught a 31-yard pass, give him 2 for 48 on the day. I'm a little worried about him. I am worried with him with McCarthy. when teams bring a pass rush, the downfield passing game could be the one that suffers, and Addison is the one that's a big play guy. Hopkins had scored a touchdown, but only went 2 for 11. So, again, I'm very concerned about the passing attack with McCarthy. We will see as matchups get a little easier. The Atlanta game, I know that was a weird game when McCarthy started. The Bears game was bad until the second half, and they caught the Bears in the second half when Bears defense was not really good, and it wasn't good that first game. But a little jury out on McCarthy, as it is with everybody, but I am worried about the long-term health of that passing attack with him, especially when they play better defenses. The Detroit side, fortunately for fantasy, the Lions played behind in the second half. So Jared Goff got the 284 and 2 touchdowns, so he was fine. Jamison Williams was going to have another low-profile game, but they needed him late, and he got a 37-yard catch, a touchdown, 466 and a touchdown. So if you started JMO, now in the last 4 games, he has 2 decent ones and then 2 near zero. But that's going to be the world for him. Not overly exciting right now with that, but he's boom or bust. That's all he is. You treat him as a flex. And if you can handle a boom bust play there, then you do it. St. Brown, 13 targets, had a drop in there, big deal, 9 for 97. He was just fine. Sam Laporta, 6 for 97 and a touchdown. So as always, St. Brown and Laporta are just fine. The people who didn't do great, Jahmyr Gibbs. Obviously, it's a blip on the radar. It's not a big deal, but Minnesota came out looking to try to take away their run game, and they were largely successful. Gibbs, 9 for 25 on the ground. He caught 3 for 3, so he got you about 5.8 PPR points. That was a rough one for a player you're expecting 20-plus out of every week. Montgomery did score a touchdown. So Monty goes 11 for 40, catches 2 for 10, ends up with a decent day, about 13 PPR points. And I did recommend Monty in this game as a player because I did think the matchup played well. I just thought they would run really well on Minnesota because Minnesota scuffled against the run. But you see, this is the thing we're learning. We learned it with Pittsburgh today. We learned it with the Lions and the Vikings today. And we even learned it earlier in the year with Philadelphia. Some of these teams are selling out to stop the run. That hasn't been something the NFL has been doing the last years. The last few years is all about stopping the explosive pass game, putting the shell back. Some of these teams are looking at the opposing offense and saying, we take away their run. Let's make them beat us through the air because we don't think they can. It's a slap in the face to the opposing team because you're saying your quarterback can't beat me. And I found that interesting. And look, I know a lot of people think the world of Jared Goff. I think everything around him has to be pristine. If it's not pristine, I do not think he's a producer. Sean McVay ran him out of town, and it was no accident. And I know Goff's done great things, but he had Ben Johnson. He had an incredible line. He had incredible weapons. And yet we still see these games where he can't carry the team. So all that said, Gibbs will be fine. Jamison Williams won't. He'll be on and off. But the beat goes on for the Lions. 5-3, they're still fine. The loss doesn't cripple them in any way. This was never going to probably be a 1 seed anyway. Not that they couldn't turn around and do that, but it never appeared a team that was going to be a 1 seed. But they certainly are going to be hopefully getting better as the season goes on. All right, we will go over more of the Week 9 reactions after we take a short break. All right, instant reaction number 4. A wild shootout between the Bears and the Bengals. Bears 47, Bengals 42. This game started out with a kick return for a touchdown. An incredibly fun game to watch. Was it good football? No, it wasn't good football. But you know what? Sometimes you just want to be entertained. And this was entertaining. Uncle Tess, I wouldn't fall for the Loveland trap. You know what? I did not advise Aaron Colson Loveland. He hadn't been getting a lot of targets. I know the Bengals are horrible against tight ends. I didn't know if the Bears would make it a priority to do that. Loveland just has not been heavily targeted to this point. And Kmet got knocked out with a concussion. I don't know how much that ended up doing it later, but a beautiful game. Yeah, and that's fine to start. The Bears win 47-42. So let's Kmet. Goes out concussion. Loveland, only 7 targets. So it wasn't like a boatload of targets. 6 for 118 and 2. And yes, he took advantage of a horrible Bengals tight end defense. And maybe I should have ranked him higher. I missed that one. I didn't see it coming. He hadn't had a breakout game yet. So to predict the first breakout game to be in that spot, it's on me. I didn't see it. Maybe other people did see it. And if you did see it, Nice call on your end. For me, it wasn't a nice call. I did not see that coming. That said, Caleb Williams does enough here. Again, Bengals were without Trey Hendrickson, and they still were getting some pass rush. They still were getting pass rush. Caleb Williams was breaking contain quite a bit. That was a little bit surprising. They got some pass rush, more than I thought. But the run defense. I guess I talk about Caleb Williams. Let's stay there. Williams goes 20 of 34 for 280 and 3 touchdowns. And that was, and he ran for 53. So Caleb has a really wonderful fantasy game. He had a string of 3 games where 2 of those were not good at all. And so it was nice to see him get back on track against a bad team. But for fantasy, they were running the ball well. This game, they needed to do everything. But remember this, when the Bears can run the ball, they will. And unless Ben Johnson changes things, there will be weeks where Caleb doesn't perform for fantasy because they don't use him as much. Kyle Monangai, I'll wait for the pass catchers. Kyle Monangai, everybody's had to start him. We all knew he was an auto start against Cincinnati. The Bears rushing attack has been very good. The run blocking has gotten significantly better than it was in week 1 and week 2. They really, really block it up well. And then, of course, playing a bad defense. Monangai goes 26 for a $176. Incredible game. He caught 3 for 22, so he has 198 scrimmage yards. Would have been nice to get greedy and get a touchdown, but you're not going to argue. If you had Kyle Monangai and you were able to start him, you were super happy about that. If you were desperate in a deep league and you started Britton Brown, 5 for 37 and a touchdown. Don't know that I even put him in my ranking. I think the Bears moved him up from the practice squad, maybe. I don't even think I moved him onto the rankings. I did not. I thought maybe Travis Homer would be involved or something, but that neither here nor there. So the receivers. I guess we started out with Rome Odunze. He goose eggs on 3 targets. Now, he had a good game last week. And the first 4 games, he scored touchdowns. It's been a rough ride since. Caleb Williams, on and off as a passer. Defenses clearly shift their focus to Odunze now. I think defense at the beginning of the year, we're expecting DJ Moore to be the guy. And I think they're putting more attention on Odunze. Odunze will be fine eventually. But for this year, after this last stretch of 5 weeks where it's been more bad than good, I think right now I'm going to move him way down in my rankings. I think you got to treat him as a wide receiver 3, volatile wide receiver 3. And because this is an easy matchup you can get, and the Bears scoring 47 points and him not being a part of that, that's a rough one. And only 3 targets. I mean, Monangai had 5 targets. Olamide Zaccheaus had 8 targets. Actually, Zaccheaus led the team. And Zaccheaus goes 6 for 58 and a touchdown. If you were in bye week Hades, you might have needed him, so he ended up being okay. But DJ Moore obviously has been a bad season, but he's been coming on. He had 11 PPR points last week. I told you after that Washington game. In that Washington, they were using him, but then he got hurt, and then the weather got nasty. So they're using him more. And so he goes 4 for 72 only on 6 targets, but he runs in a 17-yard touchdown. He passed the touchdown near the goal to Caleb Williams. So he got you a rushing and a passing touchdown. He got you 89 scrimmage yards. By far his best game of the season. I don't think he's locked in yet, but I do think with double-digit PPR points in a good number of games, I think he's a wide receiver 3 right now. And you know what? It wasn't what you drafted. It wasn't what I recommended. But at this point, he's usable. And at this point, we see plenty of players who aren't usable. So I think we take that and, we call it a day on that. Cincinnati side, oh my gosh, it was beautiful for fantasy that they were trailing the Bears in the second half because it was a show. Joe Flacco shaking off a shoulder injury. Throws for 470 and 4 touchdowns. Did throw 2 picks. Who cares? 470 and 4. Joe Flacco. Some people might not have started him because of the shoulder injury. Mistake if you didn't, but I understand if you did. I understand because with the shoulder injury, if he gets hit, his day could have been over. Chase Brown on the ground. Well, Samaje Perine left this game with an ankle injury. So, and I think he was pretty quickly ruled out, if I remember correctly. But so Chase Brown took the lead role. And so Brown goes 11 for 37 on the yard. And you're like, oh, man, it's not good. Well, guess what? He ate as a receiver. caught 8 of 14 targets. Should have caught more targets. He had a drop in there that I saw. 75 yards. So he ends up with another game over 100 scrimmage yards, third straight game, and 8 catches. So this without scoring a touchdown. To tell me you're going to get 112 yards and 8 catches, it's 19 PPR points. That's a very, very good game. So like I told you, as soon as Joe Flacco came in, I told you Chase Brown is viable. I told you to trade for him because the whole premise we liked for him was that defense would have to play back because you got to worry about Chase and Higgins, and that would open up free space. They weren't getting that space when they had Jake Browning in. The receivers, of course, Chase, only 8 targets, not the 23, not the whatever he had, 16 or 19 in the other game, only 8, 6 for $111. Wasn't the game you've been getting, but you're certainly not going to argue. Jamar Chase getting it done as always. T. Higgins leads with 9 targets. Incredible touchdown catch, reaching around the defender and then running it in the end zone. Incredible. 7 for $121 and 2 touchdowns. Fortunately, I was recommending on the Start Sit show. I mean, I who wouldn't start Higgins? People were asking. Some people were asking. And it's like, no, you start him. You start T. Higgins. Even though he only had 1 target, it was a touchdown last week, you start him as long as Flacco's in. Outside of that, I mean, if you started Yoshi Boss, congratulations. You got 66 and a touchdown. But that path is often rough. But Noah Fant continues to get something done. Fant had been getting 3 or 4 catches every game with Flacco, 2 for 28, but he got a touchdown in this one. So it's not like a tight end 1, but Fant has been useful in fantasy for sure. I cashed in on your NFL picks this season with Chalkboard. Simply choose more or less on your favorite players. Has to win up to 5,000 times your money. For a limited time only, new players receive a free pick and 100% deposit match. See why over 1 million fans have already locked in with Chalkboard to turn their sports knowledge into cold, hard cash. Whether you're locking in the perfect slip with alternate lines, using the cash out feature to take your money and run, or hammering the daily promos, today's your chance to win up to $40,000 at a single entry. Stop sitting on the sidelines and get into the game with Chalkboard Fantasy Sports, now available in 30 plus states. Download Chalkboard today and use the code ROTONFL. That's ROTONFL to claim your free pick and 100% deposit match. All right, one more instant reaction, number 5. Brock Bowers, incredible return to action. So as you know, Bowers had played through a knee injury, had a few really lackluster games because of the knee injury, and then they shut him down for a few games, and then they had their bye, and then Brock Bowers came back, and Brock Bowers ho-hum, 12 catches, 127 yards, and 3 touchdowns, caught 12 of 13 targets, caught the touchdown in overtime. They went for 2 and missed it, so the Raiders lose. Jaguars 30, Raiders 29. So again, overtime, Jaguars 30 go to 5-3, Raiders 29 go to 2-6, and Pete Carroll looked flustered when they lost. Bowers, anyway, like I said, 127 yards and 3 touchdowns. Man, what an enormous fantasy. 40 fantasy points that should have been. Maybe a little over 40, like 42. What a day. Hopefully the investors in Bauer's season didn't go south already because he was not a big factor because you drafted him in the first or second round. First round is a tight end premium, second round if there's anything else. But yeah, hopefully you were still alive and well with that. Otherwise, look, Geno Smith throws 4 touchdowns. And fortunately, Bowers was there because he didn't look good. But then you look at the numbers, it's like, wow, Geno's had a really bad season, but he had a really, really good game here because this game turned into a wild shootout. So again, it's just a one-off for Geno. That's fortunately for Bowers, it happened. But outside of that, the only other player who was like fantasy useful here was Ashton Genty, and it was just volume. 13 for 42 on the ground, caught 5 for 47 and a touchdown. So he ends up with 89 yards. So he's continues to be a great volume play. Offensive line's not good. Left tackle Colton Miller remains on IR. But again, volume's king in fantasy football. Genty is a good player. If he ever gets good blocking, he'll be even better. But for right now, you're excited about them. And then the Jacksonville side. So Jacksonville wins this in overtime. And the one thing I like coming out of the bye, now these numbers were a little closer earlier, a little further apart earlier. They did lean on the run. It ended up 42 runs and 34 passes, but some of those passes were in overtime. So they were run heavy in this game. ETN gets 22 carries for 84 yards. He had a number of shots inside the 5-yard line and couldn't get in, but he also caught 5 for 31. So ETN finally has another good fantasy game. So it's 115 scrimmage yards, 5 catches. getting a touchdown would have been huge for him. Bashal Tootin ended up getting the touchdown, 9 for 29 for him. But clearly, Etienne, I told him, establish that outside run. He really looked good. The Raiders are not a good defense, but Etienne, if they keep leaning on him, that is an answer for them. They don't want to go pass first. Brian Thomas leaves this game late with a high ankle sprain. Or not, let me say an ankle sprain. Let me say an ankle sprain. Ankle sprain. Don't know if it was high. But he left the game 3 for 55. He played most of the game. So, again, a normal Brian Thomas game. Parker Washington, though, I like De'Ami Brown. He had 7 targets, but only caught 3 for 25. But apparently, we've seen a few games now. Parker Washington has chemistry with Trevor Lawrence. And if Thomas is out and we already know Hunter's out, Parker Washington PPR may be a priority ad in your leagues because 8 for 90, and he's a guy that Lawrence goes to. He was the only productive receiver in this game. So right now, but Trevor Lawrence, he runs in 2 touchdowns again. Again, good for him because he's not a good quarterback. 220, no touchdowns pick. But again, if you're starting as a quarterback 2 and he's getting some rushing touchdowns, unfortunately, he's taken away from his running backs. But there's that. For fantasy, you're kind of good there. But outside of that, just wanted to point out Travis Etienne, nice to see him leaning on him. Great to see the Brock Bowers game. All right, everybody. We want to thank our sponsor, Chalkboard. You simply choose more or less in your favorite player and win up sets with the 5,000 times your money. Thanks to everyone for listening. Come back next week for another edition of the RotoWire Fantasy Football Podcast.